I've been able to navigate the business world really, really well by using that as my superpower.
What if real growth looks less like bigger buildings and more like a kid who doesn't end up sleeping in their car? CEO Tony Lima.
Our mission is multi-layered. We are, at the heart, a mental health agency that provides traditional mental health support. In many cases, we end up saving lives. It's a very inclusive, welcoming space, and they'll make meaningful connections with our youth so they really understand that anything is possible.
Don't just be successful, be significant.
We've had a reduction of about 40% of our funding from corporate sponsors. Our circles of support have grown because of that love and intention of people that have been supporting us for years. Find something that's akin and feeds your soul.
What if the secret to massive nonprofit impact isn't just about raising more money, but a radical approach to leadership that puts empathy first? What if real growth looks less like bigger buildings and more like a kid who doesn't end up sleeping in their car, a senior who finally comes out in their 60s and chooses life over giving up, or a parent who goes from, "I don't understand you," to, "I've got you no matter what"? In this episode, we're diving deep into SunServe's playbook with CEO Tony Lima, a leader who isn't just expanding an LGBTQ plus nonprofit in South Florida, but quietly redefining what it means to lead with impact and compassion when funding is shrinking and politics are stacked against his community. If you've ever wondered how to scale for good without losing your soul, this conversation is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about leadership, growth, and what it really means to show up for people. Welcome back to the Marty Davis Show, where we turn complex business and social problems into clear, practical strategies for you that you can actually use. I'm Marty Davis, business lawyer, entrepreneur, connector, and your host. Our guest today is Tony Lima. He's the CEO of SunServe, an LGBTQ-focused mental health and social services agency serving South Florida for 25 years. SunServe runs a youth and family center, a senior center, a department focused on transgender people and women, plus education and training programs serving a little over 5,000 clients a year, children, adults, and seniors, regardless of their ability to pay. We're broadcasting today from Sun S Supper Club, and more specifically, Bar Betty, their speakeasy here in Fort Lauderdale. A great place to dine and spend time with friends and family, serving classic American cuisine with an amazing vibe. If you haven't been here yet, you really should be. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Marty. I'm so happy to be here with you.
You know, I'm so glad that you're here. We've known each other for a lot of years.
A long time.
From our days in Miami and now up here in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, sir.
For someone hearing about SunServe for the first time, how do you explain what SunServe does in a sentence or two and who you're fighting for?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I've been at SunServe for almost 5 years now, and one of the biggest challenges is explaining in one fell swoop what our mission is, because our mission is multi-layered. We are, at the heart, a mental health agency that provides traditional mental health support like therapy, psychiatry, group work, life coaching, from children to seniors. But we also have several departments that have a mental health thread strewn throughout them that help people ultimately maximize their lives. In many cases, we end up saving lives, which is ultimately why we do the work that we do every day at SunServe.
Absolutely. You've been an activist and a community leader for more than 2 decades. I think it's probably getting close to 3, but I don't want to age you. You know, you started at age 10. What was the moment or experience that really pulled you into this work and made you say, whatever I do in my living, I'm going to serve the greater good?
You know, from a very young age, I remember my grandfather who was a Cuban dissident, being very vocal about the injustices that he and his family lived in Cuba here in exile. So I was able to go to radio stations with him, to go to different public forums to see him speak. So I'd say it started there. He was very much my inspiration. And I saw so much not only power, but love and intention in his approach to educating people about the realities of the Cuban experience, that to me, it's become what's driven me my entire professional life. I've worked in nonprofit for close to 30 years now. It didn't start in the LGBTQ space. It started helping to support young people to not start smoking. I worked on the National Truth Campaign and on the Florida Truth Campaign. And that's where my sort of activism started to sharpen a little bit more, because I was training young people to be activists. Long story short, from there, I went to work for a large nonprofit, which was what is now Frost Science Museum in Miami. And from there, I was recruited to work at SAVE, or Safeguarding American Values for Everyone, which is still the longest serving LGBT rights organization in the state of Florida. And that's where it really came alive for me. I was very fortunate to be able to work on really important issues.
Really making an impact, in other words, right?
Absolutely. Bringing marriage equality, helping with trans equality, helping elect people into public office to represent the LGBTQ community that I'm very much a part of.
And how did that experience then translate to here we are in SunServe in Fort Lauderdale?
You know, I always tried to make a connection while I was in Miami working with Broward County, and I was able to meet several of the leaders of Broward County. And to me, it was always quite inspiring how there was a bubble of sorts in Broward, specifically in Woolton Manors and Fort Lauderdale, of LGBTQ people that were united, that worked together to get things done in many different ways, not only politically, but on behalf of the community. And I was very inspired by that. So when the opportunity came about for there to be a change of leadership with SunServe 5 years ago, actually 6 years ago, I got a call from David Jobin, who's a good friend of both of ours. And David said to me, "This is the perfect job for you. This is marrying all of your experience with helping the greater good even further, because at SunServe, we provide direct services." The work that I did before was very esoteric in nature. It was about ideas, changing the way people think about things, changing hearts and minds. But in my current capacity at SunServe, I see the power of our work.
You're getting the down and dirty, so to speak.
On a daily basis.
You know, you told me earlier that you serve about 5,000 people a year. Your excitement about being actually providing services is great. Tell us a little bit, in a short form, what's SunServe's operation, and tell us a little bit about your team.
At the heart of the work, there are 35 clinicians and social workers that are there on a daily basis among two offices, one in downtown Fort Lauderdale that also serves the general South Florida area, and one in the neighborhood in Woolton Manors. And these people on a daily basis take appointments to see clients and help them. They meet the clients where they are. They assess what the client needs. And let's say they come in for mental health support. They're going to see a therapist in short time. They will be referred to a psychiatrist if that's what they need, an in-house psychiatrist, of course. If they're a transgender person and they need help with a name change, if they need legal support, if they need to be remitted to medical support or pharmaceutical support, we can do that too in our case management through our affiliation with AIDS Healthcare Foundation. At any given point at SunServe, you'll see a bunch of people coming in for services. Those services look like conversations, consultations. In the evenings, you'll see support groups at work. We have support groups that run the gamut from grieving to a male-centered LGBTQ group to several youth groups, and they are on. So our daily operation is really dedicated to seeing clients and ensuring that we can fulfill whatever needs they have, like you said at the beginning, despite the ability to pay.
Yeah, which is great. And I'm certain then your clients then feel they're not alone in their situation and how helpful that is. In our pre-interview, we talked a little bit about a couple of stories that you had. You talked about Sunshine Pride House.
Oh, yes.
A home for unhoused LGBTQ youth, either aging out of foster care or basically being kicked out of their house, right?
By their parents, yeah, absolutely.
What happens inside that house, and why are you so proud of that program?
I'm so proud of that program because it's one of the programs that I will consider part of my personal legacy at SunServe, being able to work on finding the funding for that program, building the infrastructure for it, finding the appropriate people to provide the care that is very specific to LGBTQ youth, and working really hard with our foundation to make it happen. Our fund has helped fund the program. We have a partner at the Sunshine Cathedral in the sense that they actually purchased the house that we operate. And what will you see inside that house? It's a home. It's based in mutual support. There is a house parent. There are several life coaches that work within the house. The youth are there as long as 6 to 9 months, whatever they need. Mm-hmm. The idea is to ultimately transition them to independence. So we also provide therapy to them, life coaching, any of the wraparound services that they may need to get where they need to be, we'll provide for them as well. It's a very inclusive, welcoming space. Our house mother will make meals several times a week, so they all sit around the table and have conversation. We work really hard to build familial bonds with those youth. So in the absence of having traditional family, they can see themselves and the folks that work with them at SunServe as that non-traditional family that will offer the support and the love that they need.
Right.
And once they leave the house, they can stay being part of therapy and life coaching. They can still be part of our social events at our youth and family center. It really is. What I love about SunServe is that the work that we do, the treatment plan for each client depends on what the client needs. They're all radically different.
Very good.
No one is ever treated the same.
You know, it's interesting. You talked about your father as being a role model for you, and my dad was my role model, and we're very fortunate to have those. And it sounds like this house and your program kind of is a good substitute and a great way for the youth to have role models and people
Absolutely.
That they can look to and say, hey, I have a unit that I belong to, right?
I belong to this unit, and these are also people that are aspirational to me.
Uh-huh.
You know, when we hire my team at SunServe, we're all completely representative of the community that we serve. We are white, black, Hispanic. Most of us speak English and Spanish, some of us Creole, just to be able to ensure that when a client comes in, they're seeing people that they recognize and are comfortable with.
Right.
But to your point, also, we have a speakers bureau at our youth and family center where often people like yourself, successful folks that are within the LGBTQ realm, will come in and talk about their lives. And they'll make meaningful connections with our youth so they really understand that anything is possible.
Cool.
That it's really about working hard and being focused and, you know, having the support that you need. And that's why we're there.
Well, that's good. You need to invite me. I'd love to tell them how this really shy kid started out and now has a podcast and a TV show. It's kind of fun.
I know.
So,
that's amazing.
You know, it's great that you're working with this youth, but you also work with kids and their families as well, right?
The younger youth. So the youth at the Sunshine Pride House are youth that cannot be part of the system in some capacity. They're 18 to 25. Within the Youth and Family Center, we treat youth between 3, our youngest client is 3, all the way up to 18. And these are kids that come in every day. We're a drop-in center, so they can come in and do their homework. They can be part of the group activities every night. There's social extensions. We do an LGBTQ prom. We do a Halloween party. We do a Valentine's dance.
I've been to them. Yeah, they're great.
And then they also do the traditional one-on-one therapy and life coaching.
And you work with the families as well when they do have a family, and
Yes.
there may be family issues.
Key.
Yeah.
That's key. We'll often also have group sessions with family members. And in South Florida, a lot of us being Black and brown folks, we have big families, right? So we will treat not only the youth, but the mother, the father, the siblings, the abuela, the abuelo, the tia, the tío, whatever the case may be. And we make sure that that youth has a supportive and inclusive environment.
That's
and
right.
we make sure that the parents have the tools that they need in order to be able to appropriately support their youth.
That's great. No, it's wonderful. And by the way, that's grandparents and aunts and uncles. For those of us in Fort Lauderdale who are still just working on English. But you also not only work with youth, but you had two former clients, Jade and Dom, who are now employees at SunServe, and a man in his late 60s who came out and worked with you and says, you saved his life. Tell us about that.
These are the stories that I hear all the time that make the work palpable for not only myself, but for the team. And because I share these stories with them. But Dom and Jade are two of the stars at SunServe. These young people are incredible. Dom is an educator and also our community relations liaison.
Right.
So they are out there in the community, connecting with people, sharing the mission of SunServe, bringing in more clientele, and really being a shining example of what it means to be a product of SunServe. Dom started out in life coaching and therapy as a teen, came through our program, was there for several years, has graduated college, is now working professionally at SunServe as an adult, and being able to provide the same support to youth like they were now in their professional realm. And Jade, very similar story, a life coach. Jade is a young transgender woman, came to SunServe initially for support with her parents, in order to be able to start to assimilate and understand what it means to be transgender, transitioned with us, received a name change with us, and now they're one of our shining life coaches. And like that, I mean, several of our employees have either been clients or they've been interns at SunServe. One of our other programs is that we provide clinical hours for people that are working on their licensure to become clinicians in the state of Florida, but also folks that are finishing their master's degrees in social work or in clinical. So we at any given time have 12 to 15 interns in the office that are learning along our professional clinicians and social workers.
Great. Well, you're providing lots of services to lots of different people, which brings me to my next question. One of our subscribers had said to me, Marty, I'm in my late 60s and my partner is in his early 80s. I'm the sole caregiver. He has early stage dementia. Marty, I need help with how do I cope with all of this? Because I'm taking care of him, but I'm feeling on how do I best take care of myself? Can you help us with that?
That's a huge issue for people that are full-time caretakers, for anyone that's ailing, really. Within our senior center, we often have workshops for caregivers with tips and planning really on how to best take care of themselves. But from what I know of the work that we're able to do and the information we're able to impart in sessions like that, caregivers always need to have a backup of sorts. A friend, another family member that can give them breaks so they can really be great at self-care, be able to shop for groceries, get haircuts, get their nails done, go to doctor's appointments, whatever the case may be. That's what we usually hear for these caregivers who often have to be with their loved ones 24/7. Getting small breaks of 4 to 6 hours are huge.
Yeah.
So, even the folks that are listening, if you have someone in your family or in your friend circle that is providing full-time care to a loved one, ask them how you can help.
Yeah.
Ask them if you can be involved in some capacity, because that makes a world of difference. Oftentimes, the person that's ailing will continue on their journey, and the person that is giving the full-time care starts to decline quite a bit because they're not giving themselves the oxygen, the breathing room that they need.
Right. And they need to have those interests and things fulfilled so that when there is the transition for their partner, life it hasn't ended as they knew it.
Absolutely.
They need to go on, and they need to move on and be cared for themselves as well, right?
Absolutely.
And keep those interests in mind. So it's a tough place because I see so many of my older friends that are feeling like they need to be there for the person who has the greater disabilities, and they feel guilty if they're not there, and yet at the same time, they're wearing down. And so it's great that what you're telling.
We can help them as well. Those people could use to talk to someone, to talk to a clinician that can also help them put a plan together on how to approach the care.
A service that you could provide.
That we can provide as well.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that. Well, let's switch from operations to Tony Lima, the CEO. You have an annual budget of $4 million. You personally are responsible for raising half of that. Maybe it's more now. Who knows what happens tomorrow, right?
You know what? In the last year, we've lost so much funding. There's been an incredible turn with corporate sponsorships, corporations that don't want to be woke anymore. So we've had a reduction of about 40% of our funding from corporate sponsors. We also have lost some funding that ultimately came from federal sources. Unfortunately, we've had to lose a few employees, but what's beautiful about nonprofit work is that the folks that are doing the work are never in it for the money.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't make big salaries necessarily. It's really about the love you have for the work and the fulfillment you feel for that work. And several of my employees are wearing 4 and 5 different hats now in the wake of losing this funding and not having anywhere to go, but still really having the desire to continue to provide services to our community at large because we know it's so needed.
Yeah.
So it's been a really difficult time, but we've also gotten quite creative.
And that's what I wanted to talk about because we have a number of subscribers and listeners that are in a role similar to yours or are fundraisers for nonprofits. Give them some ideas as to how have you navigated all of these changes and how can you help them navigate the changes as you've done?
What's been incredibly helpful is my existing donor set have been very forthcoming in helping to introduce me to new people that may want to support. So our circles of support have grown because of that love and intention of people that have been supporting us for years. Right. We are a very events-driven city or area. So SunServe has an annual gala, and the only function of the gala is to raise money for the Florida AIDS Walk construct, which we're very proudly beneficiaries of. So every dollar that we raise now is matched dollar for dollar by AIDS Healthcare Foundation.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Our gala raises a lot of money, a little bit over $250,000 to support the non-restricted funds that we need to fill gaps, to provide support when some of our existing governmental or quasi-governmental grants don't offer that support, and to really make sure that all bases are covered. And we've also had to get a little bit creative. I was very fortunate about a year ago, while things were changing politically, that I was approached by a cruise company called Transcend, gay owned and operated. Mm-hmm. And we, in the last year and a half, we've had 3 river cruises focused in Europe, really meant for donors. Mm-hmm. The donors come, they have a wonderful trip. They get to connect with me and a couple of other staff members a little bit deeper, understanding more of the mission of SunServe. And we've been able to raise about $50,000 from each one of those cruises to help supplement some of the funding that we've lost.
And so we get more specific. So that's not just from a percentage of what the cruise cost. It's from building relationships with new potential builders, right? So yes,
absolutely.
So you have a good time, you understand what we do, and you want to be a part of it, basically.
Absolutely.
It's good.
Just really fortifying the fray, right? Even more so. And it's become a really good opportunity just to have more intimate moments with donors, being able to have deeper conversations than you would be able to over just a lunch or a dinner or at any given event. And it's really helped to make SunServe's mission front and center with a lot of people.
It's funny, the social circles up here have huge parties.
Yes.
And you get about 2 minutes to talk to somebody at the party. And I continue to say, gee, I love those small dinner parties where you can sit at a restaurant like SunS and 8 or 10 people are around a table. You get to know them, you get to know their interests, and can share something as opposed to, what was your last trip and did you eat someplace good last week?
Right.
So I think that you're on the right path there. So tell us now, when is your gala?
Saturday, March 28th.
Okay.
It's at the venue Fort Lauderdale.
Very good.
We are currently sold out. We have.
Sorry, folks. Okay. Yeah, no.
So what ends up happening, we're sold out, all the tables are sold, but fortunately, there's table captains that will have open seating. They will give us seats back that we can sell to the community as well.
That's perfect.
So as we get closer, I would say there'll be maybe 30 to 50 seats available. If anyone is interested, they should check out sunserve.org/gala, Gala. It's a beautiful party. This year's theme is Tropicana, so Cuba 1950s, something that's very
good.
Close to my heart. And it's a cocktail party, sit-down dinner, dance party. There's a full Tropicana production. We actually have singers and dancers from the Tropicana that live in Miami now that are coming up to put on a show for us. And it seats about 400 people. So it'll be a fabulous night.
The venue is a great venue, and now we can channel our inner Carmen Miranda. Right?
Absolutely.
Yes, I know. I can see a headdress now with the bananas and oranges in it. So it'll be great. And that's March 28th, you said?
March 28th.
Okay.
And we're also honoring some really wonderful people in the community.
Very good.
We're honoring Mark Hunter, the owners of Hunters and Java Joe's.
Sure, yes.
Who's one of our main supporters at SunServe and a lovely human being. We're honoring Floatorama. Our dear friends at Floatorama, Scott Schramm and Rod McKenzie. Floatorama's been supporting our Youth and Family Center for the last 3 years.
Very charitable group, yeah.
And we're also honoring Project Beauty, which is a really interesting organization. They are a consortium of moms living in West Broward that want to teach their youth, LGBTQ and not, about self-care, about having a strong presence in the community, about having just being a strong role model, if you will.
Great. Once again, a tight family.
Yeah, exactly. So it goes in beautifully with SunServe's overall family theme.
That's great. I'm excited for you, and I didn't get one of those tables yet, so I'm gonna get you on. We'll get there. So when you look at the current landscape here and the headwinds that we're dealing with politically and just geopolitical stuff, what mindset keeps you going as a leader? The stubborn optimist that you must continue with.
Marty, being 52 years old now has served me in a great capacity to understand that these things are cyclical, right? And that as long as we remain unified, we remain strong as a community, as we are here in Broward County and in Miami-Dade, and as a conjoined bubble, that we're going to be okay. We just have to continue doing the work. We have to continue fighting. We have to continue educating, having the conversations, and not really be let down by whatever level of ridiculous is happening in Washington at any given point.
Right. Now,
not to get political, but I mean, it's the reality. We've seen things like this before. I feel like it's a little jarring to be happening in 2026, especially when we had made so much progress as a community, but we're still here. We're still standing.
And it should be a wake-up call for people too, that you can't just be silent. You have to say something. You have to do something. You have to get involved, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and people have to vote.
Yes.
Voter apathy is one of the biggest issues we have.
I chair the LGBT chamber in Miami,
yes.
And it's our biggest push is to get people registered to vote. We're not telling people in our capacity who to vote for.
No.
We just want you to be out there voting.
Vote. Be involved.
And it's important. As the population in Fort Lauderdale ages, I see less and less people talking about politics and being less interested. And it is so important that they have their voices heard, and voting is the best place.
It sounds trite, but we can't lose our, sight from the ultimate prize, right? Like what we want is unity and inclusivity and for everyone to have a fair and equal chance. And we can't lose sight of that.
Yeah,
we can't lose sight of that.
And the great work that you're doing, because it's a substitute for family problems, for youth problems, and quite frankly, everybody needs a little help now and again.
Absolutely.
And so you are providing a vital service. And the one thing you said that you have a downtown location as well as the Wilton Manors location.
Yes.
Where's downtown at?
Right south of the courthouse on 7th and 3rd Northeast.
Okay.
Right in the heart of downtown Fort Lauderdale, a couple blocks from Las Olas.
So you're by AHF then?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Yes, which makes it easy for us to take people to get medication or for their medical appointments. Our clients
is right there, which is great. There. Very good. A big part of our audience are young entrepreneurs and professionals as well. If you could sit down with your 20-year-old self now, knowing everything you know now, what would you tell him about purpose, career, and staying authentic to your beliefs?
It's basically a combination of the things that you said. I would say stay the course. I think part of why I've been able to have a rich and fulfilling career is because regardless of what challenges came my way, regardless of what bumps were in the road, and some bumps were huge, right? I stayed the course and I remained true to myself, and I continued working hard and being focused on the work and what was important and what I needed to do to make my community a better place. For many years, I worked in New York, I worked in LA, I worked in Atlanta and DC when I was part of a big marketing group. And I always knew that ultimately I wanted to come back to South Florida because what mattered to me most was my own backyard. I have 4 nephews and a niece who are the center of my life. I adore those kids. And I always wanted to make sure that their world would be better than mine.
Right.
And I think that's a hope that we have for the generations that are forthcoming, right? Like we want to make sure that we leave this world in a much better place and we found it. And to me, that's always been a driving force. I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to be authentic, to be themselves, to have a voice. And I think I've been very privileged because I'm Latino, I'm a Cuban American, but I've been able to navigate the business world really, really well by using that as my superpower, right? Being bilingual, being able to offer a different perspective culturally, being able to relate to the general masses, but also to maybe some of the minority spaces. So it's been something that I've always been very proud of and always led with.
I think that is so important, and especially in our community in South Florida. And quite frankly, as the country is as diverse as it is, whether you want to believe that or not, it is important. And different cultures have different thoughts. What's the one habit that you would warn or tell young leaders that they should start tomorrow if they want to have success for their future?
Build a network of trusted mentors, of people who have more experience than you do, people that are a little older than you are, people that can help, people that are within the realm that you're working in, right? So that it makes sense. People like, for me, David Jobin. For me, there was a mentor.
He's a lot older, isn't he?
He's much older.
Much older, yeah.
I hope he sees this.
Yeah, I hope he does too. Yeah, no.
But there was also...
His comment would be, but I'm a lot younger than you, Marty. Yeah, no.
That would come. That would come. But I remember as a young gay man, my first job was with Northern Trust Bank out of college. I was working in the marketing department, and my boss was the director of marketing for the entire country, a gentleman by the name of Ray Marchman, who was also...
Yes, we all knew Ray.
Ray Marchman was a luminary in our community, also LGBTQ.
Right.
And I learned so much from him. And he's always been a guiding light in my professional life. So my answer to your question would be, find a cadre of people that you trust, former teachers, professors, bosses, and always keep that cadre of people close and help them guide you, ask questions, have thought partners, but ultimately the decision is yours. right? So
Great
I'm also
advice.
very much a believer in going with your gut, right? Do the work, have the conversations, understand the landscape if you don't understand something, but also listen to your gut because your gut always knows.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound as eloquent as it should, but you always know ultimately what's right, what's wrong, and where you should head.
Absolutely. And you got to keep moving forward
Absolutely.
one step at a time.
Yep.
And if you look at it at one step at a time, it's not that difficult.
It's not. It's not.
You know, my dad had exactly the same advice for me as you've just said, surrounding him with people that he knew were smarter than he was, had more experience than he was, and he gained all of that knowledge. And my dad did really well and never went to college and, you know, had a 12th grade education. It is so true if you surround yourself by people that know more, do more, and quite frankly, maybe are more than you are.
Yeah.
That's going to help.
Hey, it rubs off.
It does. It
rubs
really
off
does.
Ultimately.
I've been practicing law for 40 years, and my first boss, I was busy out marketing all the time, trying to get new clients and things like that. And we work for insurance companies, and I'm, taking people out to dinner, blah blah blah, and doing the schmooze thing. I'd come back and say, yeah, I had a really nice meeting with this person, and they said, oh, that's great. And then he'd turn to me and say, yeah, and we got 24 new files from this company in today, and it was like, I'm working my tail off trying to get one new file, and they just come into him. Well, all of that was because he had built that team or that circle.
That network, absolutely.
And pretty soon they just sent you the stuff. And probably it was 15 years ago, that same thing happened to me where you had that circle. And it comes around.
It comes around.
And if you do the right things and you ask the right questions and you get the right advice, things work, don't they?
Things work.
Yeah.
And you asked me about fundraising earlier. It kind of works the same way. I've built a network of wonderful human beings that are dedicated to SunServe's mission so that fundraising, as tedious as it can be sometimes, because it's quite difficult work, it is wonderful when a check just comes in.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've already done the work, you've done the conversation, they understand what your vision is, where you're headed, and then they send you a check,
Right. And it's from reputation and it's from what they know about you.
It's beautiful.
It's great. Now,
It really is.
We've talked about what people should do. And I think one of those things is having a plan for what your future is going to look like. What's SunServe going to look like in the next 5 years?
Great question. I would love SunServe to have a traditional brick and mortar space in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County is very important to me, and there is no such thing as a SunServe in Miami-Dade County. And there's a lot of people that come up to SunServe seeking services, and sometimes our grants are preclusive, which is why I fundraise, right?
Yeah.
So that we don't have to turn someone from Miami away. Some of our grants are restricted to Broward County, but I would love to have a brick and mortar space in Miami providing the same services we provide here, eventually something in Palm Beach, and also being able to build our digital network further, because you can provide therapy and life coaching via Zoom and via Teams and things like that. So being able to build that out, in the last 25 years of SunServe, we have hundreds of clinicians all around the country that ultimately were trained by SunServe.
Oh, that's great.
And I would love to connect those people and see how they can be part of our day-to-day reality, and we can start to provide services in other parts of the state that may not have a SunServe to provide mental health and social services.
Well, it's certainly a worthwhile goal.
That's the plan.
So you're serving 5,000 people now. What's that 5-year goal?
Oh my God, 25,000. Absolutely.
Very good. Very good. Well, you've got a defined path. So, and I'm sure you're going to reach it. And
thank you, Marty.
Those folks watching this, help out.
Definitely.
It's great. So let's talk to some people that might be having some issues. If a parent is listening and just found out that their child is LGBTQ, and they're really struggling with it, what would you say to them right now? And how can SunServe support them?
I would say in the immediate, listen to your child. Try to understand your child. The worst thing that you can do is give them the sense that you will not support them. And shortly after that, you should absolutely call SunServe and come to a session with one of our clinicians with your child, but also separate from your child, right? Your child can see one of our youth clinicians. You can see an adult clinician. We can help you chart a path so that you can move forward, understanding your child's identity and really try to set them up for success. But in the immediate, the most important thing is to not be judgmental, not try to shut them down, not try to cut them off, because that kind of damage is incredibly damaging. I don't even know how else to say it. It's one of the worst things you can do to your child.
I have a friend whose child just came out, and he is absolutely so proud because he's part of the community, and his son is very, very shy. And he's finally worked up the courage to tell dad. He is just bubbling over with pride that his son was comfortable enough to say that.
It takes a lot of courage, Marty, as we know, because we came out at one point.
Oh my God, right? The worst month of my life.
You're not kidding.
And that was a long time ago. But we're still seeing the same stories today as we did 45 years ago.
Absolutely.
Which is really unfortunate, but it is what it is.
And for youth like your friend's child, we have social programs at SunServe that pretty much every night of the week, there is programming for young people. There's movie night, there's hangout there's a spoken word night where they all perform, whatever they come up with. So there's a lot of social activities that a youth of that age that's just come out, it's really necessary for them to be able to find community and youth that they can relate to, that may be feeling the same thing.
That's age group up to 18? Okay, very good. As we go through our interviews, my favorite part is my rapid fire questions.
Uh-oh.
So I'm looking for the first thing that comes to your mind when I ask these questions. And it just needs to be a short answer.
Now I'm nervous.
And, that's the key. I'm a lawyer. I'm supposed to make you uncomfortable.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely. One myth about LGBTQ nonprofits you wish everyone would forget.
That we're not effective.
Because you clearly are.
I mean, and I think, listen, there's a lot of nonprofits out there. There's a lot of people that are claiming to do advocacy or claiming to do this and that. I think the fact that an organization like SunServe and several others, Broward House, Latino Salud, we're actively providing support, right? So you can't negate the fact that there's people coming through and receiving a benefit from this. But that would be my quick fire answer.
Kind of going along with that, but what's the most misunderstood part of what SunServe does?
People don't fully understand how expansive our mission is. You'll hear people say, oh, you take care of old folks. Oh, you take care of youth. Oh, yeah, you work with trans people. It's all true.
Yes.
Yes, it's all true.
That's good. All right. Youth, adults, seniors, as you've mentioned, where do you see the biggest unmet need right now?
Ooh, seniors. Unfortunately, the funding for youth programs is robust, and that's true for the entire country. When it comes to senior programs, the availability of grants, the availability of any kind of support is minimal. And our seniors are battling loneliness and isolation.
Yes.
Food insecurity. So we have 2 events a month. Every 2 weeks, we either have a breakfast or a lunch for seniors. And it breaks my heart that a lot of the time, I know that the seniors that are coming, that's the only meal they're going to have that day. In some cases, it's the only square meal they're going to have for several days. And that's a really difficult thing to swallow. In this day and age, no one should be going hungry.
Right.
So it's seniors.
Okay. One personal habit that keeps you grounded doing this emotionally heavy work that you do?
Taking time for myself. In the form of going to get my nails done, going sometimes to get a massage. I try at least once a month to do something that's just for me, because it's not just the day-to-day work, right? It's just the realities of life. I have 2 aging parents that I adore and I take care of. I'm kind of the center of my family, like the elder that everyone comes to, right? And it's things when you're trying to do the work that you do, and you also have daily, regular challenges, it's important to take time for you. Yeah. So I do that. Sometimes I'll go to dinner by myself, which I never thought I would do 10 years ago. I'll go to a restaurant and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this meal by myself without my phone. I'm just going to sit here and concentrate on the food that I'm having and whatever I'm drinking and really enjoy it to the fullest. And it sounds like something super simple, but it works. You know, I come home feeling better, refreshed. I sleep better.
Very good.
Yeah.
Since you brought it up, in case you do drink an adult beverage, this is a shameless plug, but you need to try Himbrimi gin. We've got 2 bottles here. It's Icelandic gin, and it's fantastic. The flavor is completely different. And so give it a try. They serve it here at Sun Supper Club, which is a great place to come and have dinner. I live just down the street, so we're kind of regulars here, and it's great.
Oh, I'm going to try it, definitely.
You got to, yes. All right. So if you weren't running nonprofits and doing advocacy, what would you be doing instead?
Serving in public office.
Okay.
Serving in some capacity. I always thought that I would be in a public office space, whatever that means. Probably a county or city commissioner of sorts. I do believe that politics is local. It all starts at the local level. And I think that's where some of the most important decisions that then affect, the other levels of government happen. And I would see myself there.
Are we kind of making a preliminary announcement here or something?
We'll see.
Okay, stay tuned. I love it. You heard it first here, maybe. Tony, give us one sentence of advice to someone watching who feels completely overwhelmed but wants to do something to make a difference in the community.
There are several wonderful nonprofits in our community. Really look for a nonprofit that matches your likes, your passions, your whatever makes you tick. Ultimately, if you're into the arts, look for an organization in the arts. If you want to support children or pets, look for organizations like that. But find something that's akin and feeds your soul, and learn more about them. Volunteer, maybe give a few dollars, but just get involved. Yeah. It really is about getting involved. I mean, ultimately, we're on this earth to support each other. And I think whatever that support looks like is valid and important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, because you then create your own community of people that have similar likes.
Absolutely.
And you're giving back. I went to Stetson for undergraduate, and the motto is don't just be successful, be significant. And we can be significant in such small ways in making some little difference. And it's out there for us to grab. Absolutely. And to feel great about when you do it. I know you come home every day probably exhausted, but thinking, wow, we did something for someone that they needed.
I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be out. I do take vacation because that's also part of self-care.
Absolutely. Yeah, no.
But I love what I do. I feel very fortunate, very lucky to be able to do the work that I do.
Yeah. Tony, this has been really powerful. I appreciate your time. And I think that a lot of people out there are going to see how important nonprofits are, how important nonprofits in the LGBT community are, and hopefully they'll think a little differently when hearing this. And if you're in South Florida because you came from somewhere else, you're in South Florida now. Give back to South Florida. Absolutely. And the people that are in South Florida, because quite frankly, your friends and family are here, or at least some of them are. Why not be a part of this community that you live in and enjoy?
Absolutely. Beautiful advice.
For everyone who wants to support SunServe's work and needs help for themselves or loved ones, check out the links we've described earlier and will be at the end of the show. So look at all of those. And if this conversation moved you, share it with somebody else. Tell them about SunServe. Tell them about nonprofits in South Florida and why you want to get involved and why they should too. We're building an inclusive community here. We want to make South Florida a better place to live. For more conversations like this on leadership, on impact, on real stories behind the headlines, make sure that you subscribe to our podcast, give us comments, like our podcast, and more importantly, if you want to hear from somebody on our podcast, please let us know that person, and we will endeavor to get them on our podcast. Tony, thanks for being here.
You, Marty.
I think that the world is a better place because you're in it. The things that you do are wonderful. Thank you for being part of the Marty Davis Show, and we look to do more things with SunServe.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thanks
Marty.
so much.